What's going on, America? Kevin from Kevin's Corner, where I try to make some sense out of nonsense. And welcome to my premiere live show, live stream / not really live, because yeah, let y'all know that I'm not really live, but I am in the super chat with y'all. So I'm there with you in spirit, and on the keyboards. That's right. So let's go ahead and check this situation out here that I've been meaning to touch base on, but I just haven't had the time. So I figured I would go ahead and do a premiere, which it operates just like a regular live stream. You can talk to each other, chat with each other, participate in the super chat. And I do have to warn you, just in case something I say that might offend the powers that be with YouTube. If you do want to support the channel, you might want to go ahead and just do it through my Cash App or my PayPal, which are also featured in the links below. But other than that, I'm going to be right in here with y'all on the keys. You know, I might even try to separate myself from myself and be like, all right, Kev, I got a question about this or that. You know, I might even do that. So I'm there with you. So let's go ahead and enjoy this live stream. But before we do that, I do want to let you know that if you want to stay in touch with me and you want to make sure you're getting all of the, you know, notifications and stuff from YouTube, you have to do this. You have to text this number right here, y'all. It is 330-974-4607, and then text the word MAGA. And then I will give you a notification personally from me to let you know, number one, that you're in my corner. Number two, that I'm releasing either a live stream or a standalone video. Now, this one is about to be fire, y'all. We need to get into a little topic that I've been meaning to address concerning racism, unfortunately. See, this is a part of the Democrat strategy. It's conquer and divide. It's nothing new to you all, but there's some new clips that surfaced that I have to address. Now, it involves Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, regardless of how you might feel about him as a candidate or a person, the video actually isn't about him. It's just that he hit a nerve that exposed the liberal media and the left when it comes down to them trying to race bait and push this narrative that is very divisive in our country. Now, some people feel certain ways about Vivek, and they think that maybe he might be up to some shenanigans. I don't know. But if he is a paid operative, he's not doing a good job with trying to maybe perhaps come across as a legitimate potential alternative to Donald Trump. The things that he is saying are so dead on that it has made him become a target by the left. See, you know, regardless of who's saying truth, one thing that the devil could never sit back and allow to flourish is truth, regardless of who it's coming from. And with me as a commentator, I look at what is being said and is it true? Regardless of who's saying it, I will give credit to where credit is due. Now, everything else relies on your behavior afterwards. See, so regardless of Vivek and what he says throughout this video, I'm also going to be watching his behavior as he continues to follow this, I guess, pursuit in politics. Now, we don't know where he's going to end up in regards to his political aspirations, but wherever he ends up, I'm always going to have one eye open until he proves to me that he's legit. But in this particular video, I'm going to have to use him as an example of how to flush out what the left is really about in regards to racism once again. And I'm sad that I even got to touch on this, but this is so telling. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to let them have it. So let's go ahead and get into this, y'all. Woo, this one's going to be spicy.
Because if you're going to come to this table, and for all of you that have aspirations of running for office, for whatever lived experience and identity that you represent,
okay,
if you are not prepared to come to that table,
okay,
and to represent that voice, don't come.
What?
Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice
to respond, because I've had plenty of comments like this and more even in the past. I voted for Biden. That's probably why Trump lost. I'm one of them 7 million votes that he didn't get, because I voted because I was told I was black and I should vote Democrat. So I voted Democrat. I'm not doing that no more. And after I'm witnessing them trying to take down Trump as much as possible, to keep him from getting back in that White House, that makes me want to vote for him more and more and more. We need somebody in there that's real. Not these puppets like Biden. Biden is a puppet. He get in there and he get in front of that camera and he does what they tell him to do. Trump wasn't going to let them tell him what to do. See, that's why I'm looking back on all this shit now. And I'm not going to let another black person or another white person tell me who to vote for. Trump 2024. That's all I got to say.
You don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice.
What is a brown voice? What is a black voice? That's my question. I mean, it sounds like she's, trafficking in stereotypes and all of that. That's what it sounds like, prejudices. So I guess a black voice is what? You got to be out there. If you got a black voice, I guess a black voice would be, ha ha, yeah, fools. What up, though, man? Yeah, man, see, like, I got a black voice, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't speak with all those big words and stuff, man. I don't be using no King English, man. I speak with, bionics, or wait, this is bionics. That's what I speak, bro. I speak bionics, man. That's what I'm talking about. You know we can't speak correct English, man. We got to talk black, right? Yeah, bro. Or is she talking about parroting these narratives that they have assigned to black people? We always got to be mad. We always got to look at everything through the lens of racism. We can't just look at the facts, the policies, the data. Everything revolves around racism. We can't individualize people and say, wait a minute, let's judge this particular person for their behavior, their thoughts, instead of assigning all of the blame to everybody who is white or everybody who is rich or everybody. See, that right there sounds like racism and prejudice to me. And I'm offended that she would even come out talking about some black voices and stuff like that, as if we all think the same. And 5 years later,
the greatest racism I have experienced, I have experienced racism, comes from the modern left.
Whoa.
At a scale unimaginable, because I think they feel a sense of betrayal, saying that you're not speaking in the tone that you're supposed to. You left.
Wow. And ain't that the truth, Ramaswamy? Because when I first got into this, I'm going to tell you right now, the pressure that I got was not from white people. I didn't see a lot of white people on YouTube in the comment section talking about, you know what, you're a sellout to your people and you're an Uncle Tom and stuff like that. This was coming from black folks that either was manipulated by politicians like this and the modern left to make them think that they all belong to the Democrat Party. They all should be mad. They all must think the same. They all must remain on that Democrat plantation, or from people who knew that, yeah, black folks do have the ability to think individually and independently. However, my job as a politician or as a black leader is to keep these people thinking a certain way for my own political gain. So the real attacks didn't come from white folks. It came from black folks, whether it was ignorantly or on purpose. Just like Ayanna Priestly had the nerve to get out there and say what she said. Now, before we get into unraveling all of this and me dismantling these narratives and exposing these hypocrites, I got a quick commercial. Now, the US dollar has lost 85% of its value since the 70s when the dollar decoupled from gold. And the government seems bent on continuing the tradition. From now until after the next election, the government can print as much money as they want. And the last time they did that, inflation went up 9%. Now, there's always risk of investments and there's no guarantee of any kind. However, gold is the one asset that has proven to withstand inflation. Invest in gold with Noble Gold Investments. You'll also get a 24 karat, 1/4 ounce gold standard coin for free. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com right now. That is noblegoldinvestments.com, or simply dial 1-877-646-5347. It's the only gold company that I trust. Now, let's get to this video. Well, there you have it. I like that guy, whoever that Kevin guy is and stuff like that and all that stuff. But yeah, Noble Gold, great company. Make sure you check it out because right about now, they're trying to make money real funny, if you know what I'm saying. So you might want to have an alternative backup plan, which Noble Gold is an excellent company to help with that. Now, let's get into this, man, because here's a black voice that the left wants to silence, y'all. Can you believe it? Ayanna Priestly says she only want to hear black voices that represent black people. And look at this intelligent black voice right here that they want to silence, y'all. Unbelievable, these white
Five
liberals.
key House Democrats are calling on the Justice Department to investigate Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas under the Ethics in Government Act, after new reporting reveals he's accepted even more gifts from wealthy benefactors without following disclosure laws than was previously known. Federal judges are required to disclose gifts worth more than $1,000, including travel.
Okay.
New York Congressmember Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the vice-ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, wrote the letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland, co-signed by Judiciary Committee Chair Jerry Nadler, Oversight Committee member Jamie Raskin, and Democratic Caucus Vice Chair Congressman Ted Lieu. It reads, quote, Justice Thomas's consistent failure to disclose gifts and benefits from industry magnates and wealthy, politically active executives highlights a blatant disregard for judicial ethics as well as apparent legal violations, end quote. The letter was sent one day after ProPublica published a bombshell new report last Thursday, filled with details about a group of conservative billionaires who've given Justice Thomas free trips and gifts. Earlier this year, the outlet revealed Texas real estate billionaire, GOP megadonor Harlan Crow, had showered Justice Thomas with vacations, private jets, the purchase of his mother's house in Georgia, and tuition payments. Now, ProPublica reports three other business magnates, quote, apparently came into Clarence Thomas's life after he was appointed to one of the most sacrosanct positions of power in American government. Of course, they're talking about his being a justice on the Supreme Court. They are Harlan Crow, Wayne Huizenga, David Sokol, and Paul Tony Novelli. Reading from the report, their gifts include, quote, at least 38 destination vacations, including a previously unreported voyage on a yacht around the Bahamas, 26 private jet flights, plus an additional 8 by helicopter, a dozen VIP passes to professional and college sporting events, typically perched in the skybox, 2 stays at luxury resorts in Florida and Jamaica, and one standing invitation to an Uber-exclusive golf club overlooking the Atlantic coast.
Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, we all know Clarence Thomas is a Supreme Court justice, and he's conservative, black man. So he's not really a black man. He's a white nationalist and stuff like that, according to the left, because they care nothing about this, very prestigious black man who went to, I think, Harvard. I'm not sure, but he earned himself a law degree and then went on to become a Supreme Court justice, in which the Democrats fought his nomination back in the day. And they're still fighting him. You would think they would have celebrated this black man's success, but no, he wasn't the right type of black man. Now, they did celebrate John Jackson, according to Joe Biden, the one that doesn't know the difference between a man and a woman. But for some reason now, Clarence Thomas is coming under severe fire. Now, do you think that the Democrats just grew a conscience and now they want to just randomly decide to look into potential gifts that Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas is getting? Huh? You think that's what happened? You think that even though all these bombshells keep dropping about Joe Biden and all his finances and his mysterious, companies that he just opened, 20 or so of them, just random small companies with no products to sell, all the video evidence of him talking about some fire that prosecutor, all the evidence from the whistleblowers, all of these bombshells. But now they want to worry about Clarence Thomas. Out of all the people they could have picked to start looking into their finances, out of all the other things that's going on around our country, all of the problems, you're telling me these Democrats just woke up and said, you know what we probably need to do? We probably need to look into Clarence Thomas's, donations from these people. Or could it be that Clarence Thomas is a black man that ain't on the Democrat plantation? He's a conservative and he doesn't vote for these Democrat policies. He's not paid and bought by the Democrat Party. He's not an activist. He's a constitutionalist. Could it be that they can't control Clarence Thomas and they can't afford to have a black man out there on the loose like that? He's not the right type of voice. So what are they doing? Trying to silence him again. They don't want this dude influencing the Supreme Court justice, even though he's black. Like Ayanna Priestly said, they don't want black voices out there that ain't pushing these radical, leftist, mad for nothing black narratives and ain't an activist on the court. So now they want to pretend like out of everybody in Congress, all of these rich congressmen and women that are making money, like Mad Maxine, how'd she get all that money? Huh? How her daughter make all that money and stuff? Why she paying him all that money? What about Ilhan Omar paying her husband all of that money? Yeah, to work in her campaign. What about that? Nothing? They're not interested in those? What about Nancy Pelosi and Paul, who are just amazing at investing and playing the stock market somehow? They don't want to look into all of those finances, right? But for some reason, they want to look into Clarence Thomas's. Are they worried about him making decisions as we move forward through this bootleg investigation against Donald Trump? And they would like to delegitimize him so that at the end of the day, regardless of what the Supreme Court justice decide about Trump's innocence, they can still run around and say, well, because Clarence Thomas is illegitimate and the Supreme Court has been compromised by corruption and stuff, that we don't have to honor the Supreme Court's judgment. So you see what they're doing. They assassinate Black voices that don't push the narrative that we should all be mad and activists and look at everything through the lens of race. And then you have Vivek that comes along and says something like this.
Congresswoman Ayanna Priestly, I believe not putting words in anybody else's mouth. I believe taking people at their own terms.
Unlike the Democrats?
Guys, I don't believe in straw men. Ayanna Priestly, she's in the Congress today. She's a member of the squad.
Yeah.
Her words, not mine. We don't want any more Black faces that don't want to be a Black voice. We don't want any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. Literally word for word. I'm not putting any words in anybody's mouth. Ibram Kendi wrote the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. I wrote Woke Inc. It was a pretty successful book. His sold more copies than mine.
What, you talking about Abraham Shabash K. Martin, soul brother number one, Abdullah Shabash? That dude with the nasty worms and the predator dreadlocks that start right back here. Need to let him go. You got to get rid of those dreadlocks right there. Those are dreadnoughts. That's what they are. Get rid of those dreadnoughts. So that guy right there, the race baiter number one, you telling me that these two are now being talked about based on words that they said that this man is quoting them from and not making up words like they do for Donald Trump. See, because remember, they'll just straight up say, listen, man, we know what Donald Trump was thinking. Donald Trump knew that he lost that election. Dang on it. But he didn't care. He's out there saying all kind of stuff like, you know what, we actually won and the Democrats cheated, even though he knows that he really lost that election. See, they'll make up stuff, like Adam Schiff, pencil neck, watermelon shaped face, who had the nerve to get up there and just embellish about what Trump said on that call for the Ukrainian president at the time, Zelensky. See, they put words into people's mouth, but he's quoting them word for word. Let's see what he got to say about what they said.
Here's what it says. Opening lines. The remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination.
What?
The remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination.
That sounds like gobbledygook. That sounds like let me lay down some bootleg statement that sounds deep and profound. But it allows me to continue to make money from race baiting. It makes sure that no white person can get off the hook of racism. It makes sure we'll never come to a solution concerning all of this racism that's going around. Because the solution to past racism and discrimination is present racism and discrimination and future racism and discrimination and all of that stuff. So basically, there's no solution. There's no getting around it. I remember that Jive Turkey was up there talking about.
Well, see, if one does not actively fight against racism, then they themselves are a racist. If you are a passive person in regards to how you approach racism, it doesn't matter if you don't feel that you are a racist. The fact that you're not aggressively attacking racism, then you yourself are a racist.
So basically, let's create this circle of victimization and division so it will allow me to continue making money, divide the country, and continue to segment voters out into race categories. That's what that does. So what that man just said is a bunch of garbage.
So the other side will gaslight you when you say this stuff. It's like, oh, you're just making that critical race theory stuff up. No. These aren't my words. These are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern KKK.
Oh, Vivek, you gonna get yourself in trouble. You said the modern grand wizards, the modern grand wizards of the KKK. Wow, those are big words. Even though the Democrat Party were the founders of the KKK, well, let's see if this is applicable today, because we don't want to be like the left with all the hyperbole and, stuff like that. The drastic comparisons, do we? No, no, no. But it is kind of ironic that this topic of race seems to keep coming up when we were doing so good. We were coming up out of it, man. All of us watching all kind of networks and shows that we were able to laugh about. We had good times. We had, Dang on the Jeffersons. We had Archie the Bunker. We had Dukes of Hazzard. Now we can't watch any of that stuff. It's all racist. We were able to even read Dr. Seuss books, but now they're racist and stuff like that. So as we were making progress, and the Democrat Party realized we can't have the country unified, because if that happens, then we can't sell them on our raggedy policies. Then all of a sudden, they resurfaced this narrative of racism. Now, the reason that they will never try to solve the issues of racism, number one, because you can't. Okay. It's not a big deal like they're trying to pretend that it is. So you have to create the perception that racism is the biggest thing in the U.S. and we're suffering from it big time. But number two, if they did get the country to a point where we weren't focused on racism, then they would be out of business, including Abraham Shabash K. Martin X or whatever. So let's see the accuracy of what Vivek is talking about here in regards to that dude with the big old fat ugly dreadnoughts.
These are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern KKK. Oh. Really. And that's really what this is about.
I want you to listen to something that Vivek Ramaswamy said on the campaign trail earlier this afternoon about Democratic Congresswoman Ayanna Priestly. What's your reaction to that,
Here we go.
Ramaswamy's kind of idiotic when he says that, and this is why his campaign has caught fire amongst some fringes on the right, because he uses these kind of slogans, he uses these tag words, but again, he has no depth. I mean, Ayanna Priestly doesn't need me to explain what she was saying.
See, here we go. Here we go. Here comes Peanut Head out there to do exactly what they pay him to do. Bring on the black person to attack the other minority to keep other black people on that plantation. So now if Ramaswamy is a plant, wow, he has hit a nerve with the left, because they are going right through their protocol of assassinating a person who gets out there and tells the truth and exposes this bootleg narrative that racism is the greatest threat to the homeland, extremism and all of that stuff. Their goal now is to put him in the hot seat and say that everything he's saying, even though it is true, this guy is radical. This guy's an extremist. He's simply parroting Donald Trump's narratives and stuff like that. So yeah, let's see what the black dude has to say, because of course, he's the authority on issues of racism.
But if you are going to be someone who represents minorities in this country, if you're going to be a voice and represent them on the largest platform in the world, then you must actually speak truth to power about those issues that directly affect them.
Well, let's see how that looks, okay? Truth to power about issues that directly affect them. So instead of running around like Ayanna Priestly talking about if you ain't a black voice that's going to speak for black people and stuff, you don't need to even get into politics. All of that crap about racism, extremism, that does not impact black people's lives. They are embellishing. They're making it up. Do you think the black people in Chicago, St. Louis, up there in California, and all these other S-hole ran cities ran by Democrats, you think the first thing they think about when they wake up is racism and white nationalism or something like that? You think that's what they're worried about? Huh? I mean, right now we see that it's illegal immigrants in their neighborhoods that were shoveled in there by Democrats. We see that it is their economic status, it's violence, it's things like that. So yeah, she's talking about then you must see, this guy right here is talking about you must speak for the black voice. You can speak for the issues that they care about. Let's see what they care about.
He could have been hit, and he could have been killed.
Oh, this is
Jim
California.
Riley is angry. These dirt bikers and ATVs sped past his home near 17th and Lake in San Francisco's Richmond district at about 4:15 Sunday afternoon.
Look at those brothers.
recklessly going down the street. They were taking up both lanes and on the sidewalk, doing wheelies.
Just moments after Riley's 22-year-old son with special needs went outside, this dirt bike, one of many, sped past on a sidewalk. Riley and others called police, but no officers showed up.
Now, I wonder why no officers showed up. See, these are issues that are in the black community and are filtering over into white communities. And notice what they have in common. Democrat-ran cities. So now you got all these brothers out there. This out in, I guess, San Francisco or wherever in California. That S-hole ran state right there by liberals. And they decide, you know what, we're going to ride all on the sidewalk. We don't care if we get hurt or if we hurt other people, because they have lowered the standards in regards to being punished by the law to where the cops don't even make an effort. They don't even show up. So these Democrat policies are breeding this type of mentality and behavior. And they up here worried about racism and stuff.
We got to hold people accountable. We got to prosecute them.
Look at that guy.
Try something. But throwing your hands up in the air and saying there's nothing we can do isn't the answer.
They ended up going through the Presidio on Veterans Boulevard, where they also popped wheelies. The bikes ended up doing donuts in a sideshow at 14th and Lake.
I say that's the California way.
Absolutely. And it's the Democrat way. See, I'm sure they were riding those willies and stuff like that to fight and combat all of the systemic racism and stuff that's going around the country. That's their way of fighting against discrimination. I'm sure out in California, those smash and grabs for all of that money and up there in Chicago and all of that stuff is because of systemic racism and the issues in the black community that are ran by mostly black politicians over those cities. So don't be telling me these kids are breaking into stuff and violating the law because of racism. Then isn't that a reflection on you? I mean, if you run that area, are you hiring white police officers that are racist? If you're the mayor, if you're the governor, I mean, what are you contributing to creating this sense of discrimination and racism in those black areas? You could only blame Republicans so much when you guys are over all of these cities. And these are issues in the black community. And in the Latino community. Here we are again, out there in California. I wonder if Ayanna Priestly is talking about issues like this. Leave our kids alone. Look at all these Latinos. Leave our kids alone. Now, I guarantee you she'll get out there and call all of these folks transphobic. A lot of Latinos in that crowd. Leave our kids alone. Oh, and look at that. Democrat voters come out to resist these parents who want their kids left alone. Now, notice all of those people that was marching, talking about leave our kids alone, that the Democrats are hell-bent on going after those kids. Yeah. All those people, they didn't have masks on their face. They weren't dressed like that. Only bandits, robbers, thieves, and crooks dress like that. They're in California. The pandemic is over. What's your excuse to have to come out there with your face all covered up like that unless you up to some shenanigans? Now, this is the modern day left that Ayanna Priestly and the rest of them are supporting. And yet you have all these black voices that are talking about illegal immigration, but she ain't talking about that for them. Violence in their neighborhoods, lack of police support. And then out there, the Latinos are talking about, hey man, we don't want y'all taking control of our kids and going after our kids. Is she talking about, well, that's the voice of the people and we need to represent their voice? No, it's all about the voice of the people who actually control her butt, control the peanut head on CNN's butt. Those people are the voices that they're echoing, not the people on the street. And look at these Democrat voters and how they respond to these peaceful protesters.
We're all liberated. We'll be free. Our ability to express our gender is not an infringement on anybody.
Our ability to express our gender is not an infringement on anybody. You're right, except when you go ahead and target kids. Go ahead and knock yourself out. But don't try to lump the kids in to your cause, your agenda, and start manipulating them through this type of garbage. And yet, Ayanna Priestly speaks for the people's voices, right?
I know. So protect our kids.
Protect our kids. From you guys? from you guys? See, notice the twist there. The irony is that both groups are saying they want the kids protected, but for two different reasons. They will call those parents bigots, transphobic, because they don't want their kids being manipulated by these folks. These kids right here, because most of them are kids in this crowd right here, are talking about protect our kids. Probably none of them even have kids. Probably none of them even are able to recognize what gender gives birth to kids. But here they are here talking about protect our kids. Why don't you mind your own business and stay away from everybody else's kids? Apparently the left don't even like kids. With all the abortion and stuff going on up to 9 months, and you got all kind of stuff going on with them. But now they want to protect them. They don't really want to protect them. They want to manipulate them. They want to bring them on board with this agenda. And they're using the whole premise of protect our kids. Now, do you think the majority of Americans, black, white, Asian, or otherwise, Latino, you go down the list, do you think the majority of American voices are okay with this agenda? But yeah, she's talking about that these voices need to represent the people. And then the peanut head comes out and talks about, yeah, it needs to address the issues that are within the minority community.
That's what Representative Priestly is saying.
Peanut.
That you have to be true to yourself, that you have to be uplifting of your community, and you cannot act like the ills that affect black and brown people don't affect you. And for him to call her all types of names is just beneath the dignity of this type of civil discourse. Race is a very, very difficult issue for this country to grapple with. Ramaswamy in that comment showed that he's unable or unwilling or simply doesn't have the intellect necessary to tackle that issue of race by those comments he made.
Well, no, it's not a very difficult concept to tackle. It's very clear and easy. See, most people are able to recognize real racism, and most people in America, if they do see real racism, they all come together and condemn it. This is not an epidemic. We finally got to the point where most Americans will look at something and say, I condemn that. I'm black, I'm Asian, I'm Jewish, and I don't like that. And they link up with the brothers and they say, you're right, I stand behind you. But then when you have the media and people like them come in and say, that's not good enough. We actually don't want all Americans to look at racism the same way. We want to divide y'all, to make y'all think, regardless of how many white folks say that, yeah, what I saw them do to George Floyd did look pretty bad. Regardless of them all saying that, that's not good enough. Yeah, forget what they say. Forget what they unify together and say, man, we all are behind this. Forget that mess. Don't let them make a connection with y'all, because then you won't be mad for nothing. Then you might start looking at individual behavior and not labeling a whole race of people as the cause and source of all the black people's problems. See, so we're going to go ahead and have to make their motive still seem like it's evil. Forget the fact that they say, I stand with you, brother. No, they're still evil. Trust me. Forget the fact that Trump said all races are bad. All racism is evil. Forget that. Because what he really meant was a dog whistle. More racism is better. That's what he really meant.
And quickly, Scott, what are your thoughts?
Well, look, we saw Joe Biden in the last presidential campaign make a comment, akin to this, that you can't be an actual black person if you're not supporting me for president.
Wow. Peanut head, I wonder what you got to say to that. I mean, are you offended by that? That's my question. Are you offended by that? Unreal. But you know why he's not offended by it? Because he is an example of what Joe Biden was saying. That's right. He's the manifestation of Joe Biden. What he said. See, because Joe Biden assumes that, yeah, that's right, all black people belong to us. So here this guy is out here doing exactly what Joe Biden is talking about, making sure that all the black people remain mad for nothing and loyal to the Democrat Party.
Republicans believe that there is a viewpoint on the American left that somehow you can't be a full member of your party, of your race, if you don't fall in with the Democratic Party. That's what Ramaswamy was talking about, this idea that being black or being Hispanic mandates that you be a liberal or a progressive or a member of the Democratic Party. You hear Republicans all over the country and races all over the country talking about this. And by the way, there's some polling and evidence to indicate out there that there is a little bit of movement in Hispanic communities and African-American communities towards the Republican Party right now.
now. So I'm not surprised to hear Ramaswamy talking about it because it's something Republicans are talking about everywhere, right?
Yeah, and see, there you go. I mean, it's obvious that there is some movement, and the Democrats don't like that mess. Ayanna Priestly, sure enough, don't like that mess. What are they going to do when such a large percentage of minorities start seeing through all of this crap about racism and, systemic whatever? What are they going to do? Are they just going to start labeling all of these blacks and Latinos and other minorities as just dumb, brainwashed, manipulated by the white man? Are they going to just label all of them that? Or are they going to finally wake up and change up their strategy to win over voters by not using people like this dude? Here he goes, y'all. He's about to respond to Ramaswamy's comments. And look who they brought on the show. Out of all the things to focus on, they want to focus on racism and stuff because that's what the fake news does. So here's Egghead. Here's Humpty Dumpty Head right there. Perfect egg, man. I could substitute a big boiled white egg for his head right now, and you'll never know the difference. That's how round and perfectly shaped that egghead is. Egghead with glasses on it. Here we go. Let's hear from the Soul Brother number one.
Inviting you on air to disavow whether or not you have any affiliations or connections with the KKK. So let's just take the portion of your book that Vivek Ramaswamy quoted. It reads as following. The remedy for past discrimination is present discrimination.
The remedy for past discrimination is present discrimination. That sounds like you're fighting racism with racism. But let's continue.
The remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination.
And now, the solution for the future is not less discrimination, but it is future discrimination. So you can't escape discrimination? That's what you're telling me, Soul Brother number one? Now let's hear him try to fumble through some deep philosophical, nonsensical statements to get off the hook for that stupid quote there.
Discrimination, end quote. This is from your book. Ramaswamy says that's racism. How do you deal with the fact that somebody just slings this comment? Really, it's a slur, calling you akin to a grand wizard of the KKK.
Well, you might as well if you vote for the Democrat Party because, like I said, they started the KKK and they was responsible for all the racism that this brother and Ayanna Priestly and them talking about is running rampant through the country. See, so they started it. They supported all of that crap, and then somehow now they're fighting against it by promoting more racism and discrimination. Now, it just sounds like the Democrat Party just changed up the tactic concerning discrimination and racism. Sound like the KKK simply evolved and started to recruit some black folks so that they can convince other black folks that it's good to remain on the plantation. It sounds like if you couldn't beat them, you're like, you know what, join them. How about we bring these black people on and hit them with the...
We're not the KKK, you remember. We're not the party of racism. We're not the party of Jim Crow. We are not the party of slavery.
Hit them with the Jedi mind trick?
You will support the Democrat Party.
That's what they've done to black people? And they swear up and down. Then nah, man, you can't be supporting the KKK. We're nothing like the KKK. Yeah, no, you're still like it. You still got black people segregated and discriminated against by making sure they can't go to school choice. They're all isolated in black urban areas. You try to keep as many of them as you can in all black areas with the same stinking thinking, providing horrible school choice, horrible education, allowing violence to take place. And all they've done is exchange the dang on plantation where they was picking cotton to the voter booths. That's it. We don't need y'all picking cotton no more. We need y'all hitting that Democrat slot when you go in to vote. That's what we need. And we also are going to do just like when we were, had all those slaves. We don't want y'all having men in the house. We don't want y'all to look to the black man as a source of salvation for the family and support. No, get that dude out of there. That's what they're all about. And here this guy is helping that happen.
I mean, as a scholar, all I can do is set the record straight and set the truth straight.
Here we go.
And the fact of the matter is that the modern Klan actually hates me. And you know who the modern Klan loves? The very candidate that Vivek praises every chance he gets.
This idiot don't even realize that the Democrat Party and all these white liberals who support this guy and all of that, because if he was a real brother who is fighting against how the black man is being mistreated, first of all, he would be identifying the Democrat Party as the source of all the problems. Secondly, they wouldn't be promoting his book and he wouldn't be on MSNBC. The fact that he's on MSNBC and any of the rest of them on CNN, MSNBC, lets me know that the people that are supporting you and promoting you are really the plantation owners. That's what it is. Because if you was really about it, you'd be like Clarence Thomas. They would be figuring out how to silence you. You would be like they're doing the Ramaswamy hit pieces. But instead, they bring you on here. Tell us about, how you feel about the KKK. And he's up here talking about the KKK hates you. Yeah, he has no idea. Is he talking about the same KKK like Robert Byrd, who Joe Biden was friends with and eulogized like that? Or Margaret Sanger and all of these people? Is he talking about them? I'm just curious. Or what about Joe Biden when he said, I want my kids growing up in a racial jungle? Is he talking about people like that? Because they love you. But here we go. Donald Trump somehow is the racist.
And that's Donald Trump, who, of course, described modern white supremacists as very fine people, who told them to stand back and stand by, who did nothing.
Putting all kind of words in Trump's mouth and lying, manipulating the context of all of those statements. And you wonder how he got on MSNBC, because they do the same thing. Notice they don't bring brothers like me on MSNBC. And if they did, they would have about 16 black liberal commentators lined up on that panel, all with the purpose of attacking me. You think they would equal up the odds? You think they would bring in me, Candace Owens, Anthony B. Logan, Tatum, black conservative perspective? You think they would bring all us in on a panel and go, toe-to-toe with 5 of their people? No. They would bring one person on and they would gang up on that person to make them seem like they're far fringe right and they've been manipulated by the white man and Donald Trump and stuff. So now here's this guy lying about Donald Trump and doing exactly what MSNBC wanted him to do. And they're not even correcting him, sir. That's actually not what he said.
As they recruited or as they recruit white teens online, who has done nothing as they terrorize and murder people of color and Jews.
Is he talking about Antifa? Is he talking about Black Lives Matter and their recruiting process of all of these radicals online and setting up meetings and protests and attacking folks and shooting folks? Is he talking about them? How about the Summer of Love? How about all those riots where they were attacking people, white, black, Jews, you name it, killing folks left and right? But here this fool is up here talking crazy. Maybe those braids are too tight.
And Muslims and women. But Vivek is praising Trump.
Now, here's what's crazy about this man's lies and manipulation. Vivek is praising Trump after he just ripped off all those lies about Donald Trump. My question is this. What modern KKK is he talking about? The modern KKK despises me. Where are they? Somebody go out and find me where they're all meeting. I would like to actually go in and see how many KKK members are still meeting together trying to hold it down. That's right, man. We gonna hang on to it, man. We still got our robes hung up. We done went ahead and said, let's go ahead and keep them ironed and stuff in the closet, because at some point we're gonna bring it back, man. We got our hoods and stuff all creased and ready for the day that the popularity of the KKK comes back in full effect, man. When is the last time you've seen KKK members walking around or doing rallies or all of that stuff? Where are they? It's crazy to me that they still are pushing this as if this is a problem in the United States. And he's saying the modern KKK loves Donald Trump. Where are they?
Even though he is the one who has made grand wizards of the Ku Klux Klan of old proud, and who are being supported by current grand wizards of the Ku Klux Klan.
God is real. There are 2 genders.
Okay.
Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity.
Okay.
Reverse racism is racism.
I agree.
An open border is not a border.
I agree.
Parents determine the education of their children.
True.
The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to man. Capitalism lifts us up from poverty.
I agree.
There are 3 branches of government, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest guarantor of freedom in human history.
Wow. I mean, if they're trying to convince me that the beliefs that Ramaswamy right here is dropping out there, these statements, are radical and extreme and supports the KKK and Grand Poobah and all this stuff, you're not doing a good job of it. Okay, because if you are not looking at everything through the lens of racism, everything that man just said was common sense. Everything that man just said makes sense and supports America. It makes sense. It supports black folks. It supports Latinos and all other people. So where's the radicalism? Where's the controversy in what he's saying right there? I mean, the soul brother number one right there talked about how this man is supporting the Klan and Donald Trump and racism and stuff. And they're talking about how extreme he is. Well, regardless of how you feel about him, everything he just said, I agree with.
That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024.
Now, behind the smile and the charismatic quips are some ideas and beliefs that are really quite alarming.
Y'all ready to hit piece? There's some beliefs that are really quite alarming, like the ones we just heard. See, because this only works on your ignorant audience. Anybody who is conservative or common sense would have listened to what he just said in that clip right there and said, I don't see what the problem is. Now, this guy's job is to come out and try to make all that sense become nonsensical. And you can't do that. You can't make sense out of nonsense, and you can't make nonsense out of sense. But he's going to try with that egghead.
Vivek Ramaswamy has peddled dangerous conspiracy theories about January 6th, claiming it was driven by excessive government censorship.
True.
He pushed as recently as this month the conspiracy about 9/11, suggesting it may have been an inside job by the U.S. government. His campaign claims he was misquoted, but the recently released audio recording of the incident sure makes it sound like he was, in fact, pushing the conspiracy. And
that's not true. I did a video on that. That's not what that audio clip showed at all. See, you see what the egghead is doing? See? So here he is once again. This is a hit piece. So like I said, I'm not here to defend Ramaswamy per se. I'm just using Ramaswamy's clips right here to show you what these people are about. Ramaswamy was not talking about that in the context that this man is saying he was. And yet they're doing a hit piece on him. So apparently they don't like what he's saying. So if he is a mole, yeah, they're not helping him out much. In fact, they're launching the common standard attacks of anybody who comes out and destroys their liberal, globalist, Marxist narratives.
Then there are his policy ideas. He believes the United States should stop providing aid to Ukraine immediately, that Ukraine should concede the Donbas region to Russia. He wants to raise the voting age to 25 unless young people serve in the military or pass a test.
Beautiful. He's making my point. I mean, right now I'm sitting there going, I don't see what the problem is. I agree with that. Because we got a lot of Antifians and stuff like that who ain't never paid no bills. Yeah, still living at their mom's crib. Those are the targeted people that the Democrats go after. The ones that's looking for purpose. The ones that's at that age where they don't have any wisdom and they want to be mad for nothing and feel like we're fighting against injustice and stuff. And all they end up doing is becoming useful idiots. Maybe by the time of 25, you might mature enough to know that life is serious and you don't need to be running around the country with sticks and faces covered and pretending to be ninjas and all of that stuff, harassing people. Get a job, make some money, and do something with your life. So I don't see what the problem is with that. What else?
He's pledged to abolish key government agencies like the FBI, the Department of Education, and the IRS. He said that the climate change agenda is a hoax and that increased investment in fossil fuels are a necessity for human flourishing. He has promised to pardon Donald Trump on his first day in office, and it doesn't end there.
It doesn't end there. Now, this dude thinking he is laying down all kind of stuff to make Ramaswamy look radical, extremist, tinfoil hat wearing, a Donald Trump puppet, far right, white, potentially nationalistic. And I'm saying, you're doing a bad job of that. Right now, any conservative listening to what you're saying that Ramaswamy has said that we should do, then we're all saying, yeah, get rid of the FBI and those three-letter agencies, the IRS. I agree. So you're making his case.
Just yesterday, Ramaswamy said he would like Elon Musk as an advisor when he wins the presidency. And then he likened the progressive Democratic Representative Ayanna Priestly and the activist and author Ibram Kendi to grand wizards of the Ku Klux Klan. He just said two people, two black progressive people are like grand wizards of the Ku Klux Klan.
Here it is, y'all. Out of all the stuff to focus on, MSNBC/egghead right here. Woo! Ramaswamy done got himself in trouble. He's talking about race. and forget about all the other stuff he's talked about and all those policies, we got us a way in. We got us a way to go ahead and assassinate this man's character. He gave us a bone, y'all. He called 2 black people akin to the KKK. So now here he is, y'all. He done committed the ultimate sin. You can't call black people out for race baiting. You can't do that, even if you are a minority.
And by the way, he said that climate change refugees, of which at last count there was an estimated 20 million, simply don't exist. And
They don't. What the heck is that? This dude right here is not good at his job. Everything he's saying, I'm going, what, is he trying to discourage me from supporting these policies? Where are all these climate change refugees? Why is it that their climate's so different that they got to all come to America? That's what I don't understand. They're just down south. Frankly, if those countries was a part of the United States, I would be moving down there. I like their climate better than the ones up here. I got to deal with 4 seasons. So what are you talking about? Far as I know, down in South America, most of those countries right there are wonderful climates. They're tropical. They don't get hit with tornadoes. They don't get hit with hurricanes and mess like that. Snowstorms. So what's the problem? They're coming here because they're political asylum seekers? No. They're coming here because the Democrat Party wants them to come here to become eventually Democrat voters. That's why they're coming. And you're using stupid stuff like climate refugees. When is the last time you seen one of them come to the border?
Coming to the border because the climate refugee.
Well, could you please explain that?
And down there I was picking bananas and it was too hot. And I said, it's so hot, I can't even pick the bananas. So I said, I'm going to come to America where it's a little cooler. That's why I'm here.
When's the last time you heard anybody say that? You haven't. He's making it up.
he believes social welfare programs are incentivizing young women to abandon the idea of a nuclear family and has convinced them to avoid traditional marriage.
True. This cat right here, who wrote this script for him? I'm sitting there like, dude, you're not convincing anybody. They got common sense to say, well, everything Ramaswamy just said is, no. In fact, I'm going, that is true. Because that's what the Democrats have been doing. In fact, that's what the slave owners did. Since y'all want to talk about racism and all that stuff, they made sure the black man was removed from the family. Just like the Democrats are doing. Unbelievable.
Ramaswamy has been gaining on DeSantis in recent polls, though still trailing Trump by about 50 points. He was cheered and booed and faced heavy criticism and gained lots of new donors. True, his presidential bid is still a very long shot, but eyes wide open as we see a brand new conspiracy theorist start taking the spotlight.
There we go, y'all. You want to assassinate somebody's character? Yeah. Or take away from the substance of what they're saying and their policies. Just start calling them a conspiracy theorist. Nobody wants to be labeled as a conspiracy theorist. Somebody who's crazy and kooky and sitting in their basement with antennas and stuff on their tinfoil hat and stuff like that. However, these last several years, we found that all of us conspiracy theorists have been dead on. So are we really conspiracy theorists or are we truth tellers? Interesting. And look at this race baiting network CNN. They got to get in on it.
I want to start with what I began the program with, which is this racist shooter killing 3 black people in Jacksonville yesterday. What is your reaction to the shooting?
Okay, here we go. Racist shooter. Well, they didn't want to lead in on the transgender shooter down there that killed all those kids at the Christian school. They didn't start off with that, the transgender shooter. But now all of a sudden, it's the racist shooter. Not the crazy shooter. Not the mentally deranged shooter. But they want everybody on their audience to know that it's a racist shooter. Now, you know she's going somewhere with this. She's trying to set him up. They always do this. When they start thinking they can tag something as racist and they want to bring a Republican on or a conservative to weigh in on it, they really want to try to double trap them. They either want them to commit to identity politics and race baiting. And if they don't buy into that, then they will say, well, wait a minute, are you supporting racism? If you're not able to condemn this, that must mean you love it. You're supporting these type of people.
It is such a tragedy, and my heart goes out to those families. This should not be happening in the United States of America, and it is wrong. The reality is we have a mental health epidemic in this country. There are reports that this particular individual, the perpetrator, was indeed evaluated for mental health deficiencies as well. And I think we need to have the courage in this country to bring back a practice of putting back psychiatrically ill people who pose a risk to their communities into psychiatric institutions, not just drugging them up, but faith-based approaches and other approaches that fill our longing for purpose and meaning in this country. I think it is just a shame that we even have mass shootings like this, be it the one that happened in Florida, be it the recent one, the Nashville shooter in a Christian school, killing 6 in a school.
Notice what he said, Nashville shooter at a Christian school. He didn't say transgender Nashville shooter. See, because he's not using identity politics. But Dana, she wants to go there. She's right now, everything he's saying, she don't care about that. She's waiting for her moment of opportunity to slide in. But I want to talk about racism. That's what I want to talk about. Forget all of the stuff that you're saying right there that all Americans should agree with. I want to get on racism because we can't have all Americans agreeing now, can we?
We have to address that mental health epidemic, and we need leaders with the courage to do it. But my heart goes out to those families, and I hope something like this never happens again.
Mental health is one aspect of these shootings, and
But
apparently
the other
we're
one?
still learning a lot about what happened. The facts are still coming out. Also, this was very much apparently racially motivated.
Here we go.
The sheriff there said point blank that this shooter had manifestos coming, 3 manifestos, and said specifically that he went to this dollar store with the intent of killing black people.
Wow. Now, we're still waiting on that manifesto of that transgender young lady that shot up all those kids in the Christian school. They're not releasing that one. They're not releasing that one. I wonder why. They are quick on the draw to talk about manifestos and assign motives to all of these people and all of that stuff. But when it's somebody who breaks the narrative and the stereotype that all of these violent occurrences are all being done to minorities or just regular Americans by these extremist conservatives that are motivated by racism and stuff, not crazy. They're not motivated by craziness. They're motivated by racism and stuff like that. Forget crazy. Now, understand, I don't care how racist you are. You have to also be crazy to do what that person did. There's a lot of people out there that might be racist, but you don't see them saying, racism made me do it, man. It's greater than craziness. It trumps crazy, man. I'm just suffering from the racist gene that makes me violent and do crazy things. No, crazy makes people do it. Just like the man who killed the young man who he said was an extremist after listening to Joe Biden's speech talking about ultra MAGA, ultra MAGA, and you know what, these extremists, these MAGA. And then went out there and ran over a young man who he said was an ultra MAGA person. He was an extremist. He might have been part of one of these extremists. Ran him over. But know what? They didn't bring up, you know what, the motive for this person was Joe Biden talking about ultra MAGA and all of that stuff. They didn't bring that up? Why not? But here she is now. Let's get to the issue of race.
I think that is heinous and deserves to be called out for what it is. The reality is we've created such a racialized culture in this country in the last several years that right as the last few burning embers of racism were burning out, we have a culture in this country largely created by media and establishment and universities and politicians that throw kerosene on that racism.
That's you. That's you, Dana. That's you. That's who he's talking about. That's who I'm talking about. So as the last few embers were dying out, y'all come along talking about some, we can't let that fire die. We'll be out of business. Abraham Kennedy, how he gonna make money? Really get in there and teach some stuff that might benefit black people instead of telling them you're a victim and you're mad and always be mad and racism is here to stay. So always be mad and upset and discriminate against other people and use racism to fight racism. You think that's what that guy wants to happen? No, he wants to continue pushing this garbage. And the media wants to do it too. And if you don't believe me, listen to how she tries to hang on to the race narrative.
And I can think of no better way to fuel racism in this country than to take something away from other people on the basis of their skin color. I've been saying that for years. And I think that is driving, sadly, a new wave of anti-black and anti-Hispanic racism in this country.
Sir, he is dead on. Because guess what? If you want to deal with racism and you want white people to not be racist, but yet you're calling every one of them racist, You're trying to make them pay for reparations. You're trying to say they're responsible for slavery, even though they don't have no ancestors that dealt with slavery. They weren't slave masters. They didn't live during that time. You're trying to do all of that. Every opportunity you get, you're bringing on somebody to talk about white man, and you bring on black radicals on these networks who have complete freedom to just trash white people. You bring them in to your jobs and have them get up there and call everybody on the job racist, even though you've been working next to a brother all your life. And I look at your friend over here. If he's black and you're white, you're racist. No, I'm not. Me and this dude's been tight. Well, see, that's the problem. You're not able to recognize your racism deep down on the inside. And the fact that you say you're not a racist proves that you're a racist. That's how you create racists. Yeah, when people start seeing, wait a minute, man, I wasn't a racist, but now I'm hearing black people attack me, calling me racist. I'm hearing white liberals call me racist. I'm seeing me as a white person being punished because of my race. You're going to create racists, just like by telling all these young black people that racism is the source of your problems. You're going to create a lot of angry black men and women in the hood that don't realize you're manipulating them. You're going to create them to become mad for nothing, to resist any type of authority, to whenever they're pulled over by the police, instead of using conflict resolution, they want to get mad and say, you pulled me over because I'm black, even though you were speeding 75 and a 25, but yet it's because I'm black. You're making them sorry. You're making them radical and angry for nothing, just like you'll probably create a lot of other racist white people out there that weren't racist at all. But yet Dana here, she doesn't see that. She thinks Ramaswamy's comments are radical and extreme.
I think the right way forward is if we want to stop hate and discrimination on the basis of race, let's stop discriminating on the basis of race and see what unites us as Americans.
There's a thought.
I do not think this kind of racial division and any division is good for us as the United States.
I believe that there are a lot of people of color in this country who don't think it was just lasting embers of racism, but that a lot more work had to be done, particularly given the history of the systemic racism in this country with slavery and beyond.
Of course, here, as y'all can always see, it's always the white liberal that's always trying to tell us black folks who we're supposed to vote for, who we're supposed to side with, which is usually Democrats, and that, you know, it's their typical white savior complex. Funny. Trump 2024, Karen.
Well, surely she knows. I mean, obviously she has her ear to the streets in the black community, right? I'm sure she wakes up in the hood and she's able to hear all of the struggles and the issues that black folks have to deal with. And I'm sure that she sits in on those Monday morning meetings at the table with black folks. And they're like, all right, son, all right, daughter, remember today, be on the lookout for systemic racism, white nationalism, okay? Not black gunfire or gang gunfire in our own neighborhood. See, when you get off the bus, don't go to the playground. Run straight home because of all of the systemic racism and white nationalists that might be out there trying to get you. No. Not because of black gang violence in the neighborhood or other types of violence in those neighborhoods. Yeah, not because of that. It's because of all the systemic racism and white nationalism and stuff like that. That's the first thing on these black people's mind, according to her. It's unreal that she thinks that she knows what the majority of black people think. And that's the arrogance of white liberals who push this garbage. They will sit back and tell black people, you don't know what you're saying. Like Joy Behar had the nerve to say, see, that's why they're Republicans. Clarence Thomas and people like Ben Carson, they don't get it. They don't get it. Unreal white liberals.
I want to ask you about a comment that you made about white supremacy in Iowa on Friday.
Yeah, here it comes.
I've never once encountered that yet. I'm sure the boogeyman white supremacist exists somewhere in America. I've just never met him. Never seen one. Never met one in my life. Right? Maybe I'll meet a unicorn sooner, and maybe those exist too.
So
there you go. Because see, if there's not enough racism and white supremacists and KKK members going around, you have to create the image that they're all over the place in the heads of people who don't realize that you're downloading the matrix into the brain. You're making them buy into reality that they don't see in their everyday life. And many folks are walking around thinking that it's all over the place. They done put on some racist glasses, and everything they see is through the lens of racism, not realizing that none of that is real racism. Just because somebody happens to get in front of you in the grocery line doesn't mean that they're practicing their white supremacy and their white privilege. It just means that maybe they didn't see you. Yeah, just because you get your butt fired on the job for coming in late, leaving early, talking on the phone, playing on the internet, doing your nails, doing your hair, all of that stuff, got a nasty attitude. Just because you got fired is not because they're white supremacists or racist, because you're a horrible employee. If you're black and you're riding in the car and smoke coming out the side of the windows all over the place, and your music is so loud that it looks like you're throwing a concert as you're going down a freeway and you're swerving all over the place while speeding, it's not because you're black that they pulled you over. It's because you're driving crazy and you're reckless and smoke's coming out the window. But because they have conditioned so many people to think that racism and white supremacy is all over the place, you'll get people that will respond accordingly to the manipulation. And Ramaswamy here is pointing this out to her, and she's a part of this whole problem, and she don't even realize it. Well, she does. She does.
Just because somebody hasn't encountered one doesn't mean that the notion of white supremacy doesn't exist as a threat in America. What do you think?
No. I'm not going to let you get away with that, Dana. Just because somebody hasn't encountered, I don't know one person who has encountered that. See, it's not just even me personally. I know all the black people I know, if they ran across some white supremacists, KKK members, you know what they would tell me? Kev, dude, you would never believe what I ran across. I ran across a whole group of white supremacists. Not one of those groups that I just assume they're white supremacists because they got the American flag on their shirt or something like that. They got a Gadsden flag or something like that. Not that. I'm talking about hardcore white supremacists with the Nazi flag on their chest. Maybe got one on their forehead. Blatant, open, racist, white nationalist, white supremacists. Yeah, like back in the day, when we was able to identify them, they were proud. But now all of a sudden, everybody could be one. A little old white lady or something. Somebody who disagrees with the fact that, they want to go in and do stuff with our kids. And, somebody who disagrees with our open borders. They're white supremacists. Just like that. Parents that might go to these school board meetings, all of a sudden they're radical, extremists, white supremacists. Even black people who disagrees with this race-baiting identity politics, they also are white supremacists. You can't escape that mess. Even black cops who kill black people, white supremacists. See, so here she is talking about, well, if you haven't seen them, well, that's the problem. If it was so blatant, so rampant, we wouldn't have to go, well, have you seen any? I ain't seen none. What about you? I ain't seen none either. We all would be saying, dude, I saw 5 today. If you listen to them, it is that bad. Well, we should be going, man, today was a good day. I only ran across 12 white supremacists. Any other day, I'm clocking in at like 20, 25 of them.
Goes through the minds of the families of the 3 victims in yesterday's shooting when they hear you say that white supremacy is basically a fantasy.
Now, do you hear this nasty, dirty, stinking woman? You hear this low blow? They would do anything to push racism. Even use the narrative of this man doesn't care about these family members who were killed by this person who apparently was a racist. What she's now trying to say is that Ramaswamy basically is saying white supremacy is a myth. So she gonna drag these dead people into this, drag these family members into this. And this is a way of fighting extremely dirty. So instead of addressing the fact that racism is not the big boogeyman that y'all claim it is, instead of addressing the fact that whether this man was racist or not, crazy was the driving motivation. Instead of addressing the fact that we hear racism come out of the media and the Democrats so often that if somebody was crazy and you just add one more element of race baiting, you might take that crazy and activate it into a shooting like this. Instead of addressing that, what does she do? How do you think the family members would feel? Now I got you. I'm double trapping you. I'm going to now pull out the heartstrings and make you have to either say, I don't care what the family members think, I'm standing by my words, or you say, I'm going to stand by my words, and now all of a sudden, everybody can look at you as a racist and stuff like that. Or maybe perhaps you're going to sell out and say, well, I like to disavow everything that I just said and do. Let's see what he does.
I'm sure they're grieving for their loss, and I don't want to politicize those victims. Dana, this is a very sensitive situation where we should have nothing but foremost respect for those victims and not bring them into partisan politics.
Like you just did.
But I was responding to a question where someone asked me, what racism have I experienced in recent years? And I answered honestly. Most of that racism has come from the modern left. It's happening during the course of this campaign. Kara Swisher calling me Rama Smarmy the other day and reveling in making twists of my last name.
But remember though, based on Abraham Hindi X, Shabashkin Martin to the third Power Abdullah, it's okay when folks that are minorities discriminate against apparently white people, or should I say liberals discriminate against conservatives. See, it's okay. Yeah, you can call conservatives everything under the sun. You can get out there and call us Nazis, white supremacists, racist traitors. You can call us all that, and that's all good. Free game. But don't you get out there and mention anything about Ayanna Priestly, just even invoking the spirit of the KKK. Didn't call her a KKK member or anything like that, but you can't even get close to alluding to maybe them, thinking or saying something like that. Here you go.
People effectively reducing me to the color of my skin and my attributes. That comes today from the modern left.
Yeah.
But the reality is,
do you
this is
acknowledge,
part of
though,
a
that
dogma
white
in this
supremacy
country.
does still exist in the United States?
So forget everything that man just said. Would you acknowledge, Dana, that all of this rhetoric come from the modern day left, starting with your big nose? Would you acknowledge that? Would you acknowledge that CNN and MSNBC and the folks that own your network are the biggest perpetrators of race baiting and division in our country? Would you acknowledge that? While overlooking all of the discrimination, all of the race baiting and the racism of low expectations and the manipulation of minorities, overlooking all of that comes right out of your own party.
I acknowledge that all forms of racial animus exist in the United States, including fringe branches. I mean, that's clearly what was at the head of this mentally deranged individual responsible for this shooting, yes. But I think there are many forms of mental derangement that cause us to see one another on the basis of our skin color and our attributes.
Yeah.
And I think what we need to revive, Dana,
and it's called CNN and MSNBC. It's called liberalism. That's what it's called. Yeah, that stuff right there gets on you. And it'll make you start seeing things that aren't there. Betsy Ross Shoes is racist. Mathematics is racist. Climate change is racist. Common sense is racist. All of that. That's what gets on people and make them start seeing everything through the lens of racism. You guys help create that.
It's my job as the leader, hopefully as the next president, to do this. To revive our doctrine of e pluribus unum. Not just celebrating our diversity and our skin-deep attributes, but celebrating what unites us across that diversity.
Can't have that.
That's what we've forgotten in the United States of America.
No.
Our true strength is the set of ideals that unite us. That's my job to revive as our next president.
Now look at her. She looks like she's inhaling a big fat fart right there. She is waiting for her next entrance to push some more race baiting. Because what he's saying, even though all of that makes sense and is great, and it's a unifying approach and message and policies and all of that stuff, she don't want that. She don't want to focus on all that goodness right there. She wants to bring back up some racism because she's the problem.
And I think that the next generation in particular is so starved for that.
Can I go now? Can I go now?
Starved for a nation that is unified, bigger than the sum of its parts.
What's the next thing I need to say?
That's what we need to recreate in this country. And to those who say the remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination,
for more racism.
I say no. The right remedy is actually abandoning all discrimination and moving forward with colorblind meritocracy in the United States of America.
She can't wait. Oh, yeah. So now, y'all, she said that Ramaswamy was insensitive to the victims down there that were killed by the young man who apparently had racist motivation. And then you heard Ayanna Priestly talk about we don't want certain types of black voices out there representing, the black community. Yeah. So now here's a black voice right here who's going to speak to what took place down there in Florida, and who's not going to parrot all of the narratives that CNN parrots and MSNBC parrots and all the Democrats and stuff. Now, before we hear from this man, make sure you hit that like button, share this video. Now, let's check it out. Here we go. Oh, yeah.
We're doing so much to try to determine what exactly led to this. The manifesto is quite frankly, the diary of a madman.
Madman.
He was just completely irrational.
Wow. He didn't say diary of a racist man. He was completely motivated by systemic racism and white nationalism and stuff like that. He's not saying that. You mean to tell me he's properly assigning the real motive behind this person's actions? He's not blanketly blaming all of society for this man's craziness? You mean to tell me this cop right here is not saying, you know what, now that we got one crazy person that got hold to a gun legally, regardless of all of the measures that they claim, that the Democrats claim that would stop these shootings and stuff. He's not saying that, you know what we should do? We should blame every law-abiding citizen with the gun.
But with his irrational thoughts, he knew what he was doing. He was 100% lucid. He knew what he was doing. And again, it's disappointing that anyone would go to these lengths to hurt someone else.
Yeah. Could you explain further the details as to why he was Baker active back in 2017, where his guns taken at the time?
No, he didn't have the guns back in 2017. He was only 15 at the time. There was no flag that could have come up to stop him from purchasing those guns. As a matter of fact, it looks as if he purchased those guns completely legally, and all the FFLs did what they were supposed to have done to make sure that there were no issues. So therein lies the difficulty.
So wait, this man ain't getting up here blaming the NRA? He's not getting up here talking about we need more gun restrictions and stuff like that? He's not parroting what the Democrats would parrot or MSNBC would parrot because they have a different motive. They want to get all the guns from conservatives, so therefore they blanketly assign blame to all of the law-abiding gun owners. See, this man, he ain't saying the words that Ayanna Priestly and all the Democrats and the fake news want him to say. He ain't a real black voice.
When a person grabs a hold of a gun with hateful intentions, it's very difficult to stop that from happening.
Standing here on the other side of this podium, he possessed these guns legally. We know what he did with them. What could have been done?
So y'all hear that? I mean, he's supposed to be up there, if he's speaking according to the Democrats' narratives that all black people should parrot. He should be up there blaming, the lack of gun control and all of that stuff, and blaming the NRA and things like that. But instead, what he's saying is that regardless of all of your bootleg false efforts of trying to lie to the public and say that we can stop all of this gun violence if we just get all of you law-abiding citizens guns. If we do that, then we can stop it. In spite of these fake solutions to the problem, you can't stop evil and you can't stop crazy. You can only prepare for it the best you can. And the worst way you can prepare for it is disarming all of the law-abiding citizens, punishing the majority of folks who ain't crazy and who ain't evil. So is that a real solution? Or is that a solution to your problem? You big fat Marxists, you big fat tyrannical folks, you globalists who know that we gotta get those guns from the majority of Americans. So we'll use events like this and blame it all on racism and say that, you know what, if it wasn't for racism, this would have never happened. And if it wasn't from the NRA, and if it wasn't for y'all guys keeping your big scary AR-15s and stuff, this stuff would never happen. So give us all your guns. Knowing that if you are evil, you're not going to go and buy a gun legally anyway. It's a suicide mission for most folks if they decide to go and get a gun illegally and come and do something like that. Not to mention, if you're crazy like this person was, and you buy into racism or whatever it is, and you decide, hey, I ain't got no record, I can legally get a gun, you still have to adjust for craziness. And you don't adjust to that by disarming the public, by blaming it on guns. So watch what this guy does.
Well, we have to stop people that have bad intentions.
Oh.
Guns, the story is always about guns. The people are bad.
Oh.
This guy's a bad guy. If I could take my gun off right now and I lay it on this counter,
right there,
nothing will happen.
What? You're telling me that gun won't jump up and say, heck nah, man, I'm motivated by racism. I'm about to go down and kill up a whole heap of folks. For regardless of what you got to do with it, Mr. Gun Owner. I'm evil in itself. That's right. Self-motivated. So you go ahead and stay here in the crib. I'm going to take your car, drive down somewhere, and go to work on some people. It doesn't work like that. So, you know, he's not saying what the Democrats will want him to say, and he's black.
It'll sit there. But as soon as a wicked person grabs a hold of that handgun and starts shooting people with it, there's the problem. The problem is the individual.
Oh, and not the collective group of people that they're always assigning all of these attributes to. See, he's breaking every single rule that the Democrats want black people to tote. They want them to tote all the lines of racism, collective blame, collective punishment. Everything is motivated by race. Look at it, everything through the lens of race. But this guy's not doing it. And then they're going to try to bring up racism. Let's see if he takes the bait.
Now, guns are a tool that people use to do horrible things. Okay. But it's the individuals that wield these things. So we are working hard to try to stop that. But
now there's a new concept. It's the individuals who do these things. Go figure. Now here I was, all this time thinking that no, it has nothing to do with individual behavior, individual craziness. It has something to do with every single person that falls into a labeled category that the left puts you in. All of y'all are responsible for that. If that was the case, that means all of these white people would be doing this every single day. They would have no control. We would be being attacked by radical, extremist, racist white people every single day with these type of occurrences right here. Because it's greater than them. All of them are infected with this. See, has nothing to do with this person. It's all of them. Now they're going to try to race bait this brother. See if
in
he
this
takes the
situation, in this case, there was nothing illegal about him owning the firearms.
Given how the history of this shooting, are you worried this might have implications on the community of a racial divide?
Racial divide, baby.
Or even nationwide?
I don't think so. I don't think there's a racial divide in our city. And actually, I work along with some of the best people in the entire world. And it doesn't matter what color they are or what they look like. We are banded together as a community to fight these issues.
Sell out. According to Ayanna Priestly, you sell out your Uncle Tom. You're supposed to get mad. You're supposed to come in like, absolutely. In fact, racism is the source of all America's problems. And we've made no progress since the early 1900s. And it's the greatest threat to the homeland. And it's everywhere. It's running rampant. That's what you're supposed to do. But instead, he says no. See, it's only a problem because y'all make it a problem. It ain't a problem unless it's a problem. Now, do you think that this young man's behavior is being celebrated by white people? Do you think the majority of Americans, after hearing this and whatever this guy's motivation, whether it be racism or whatever, I'd say it's crazy mixed with racism, but do you think if you go to, say, 1 out of 10 white Americans, how many of those people you think will say, well, darn right, serve those black people right? I guarantee you, if you surveyed almost 100% of the white population in America, you probably would get 99.999% of them that would say that was wrong. That man, if he did that because of racism, I condemn that. That's evil. But they want us to think that half of the white people in America, if you don't vote for Democrats, of course, see, that's the predicate. You can't vote for Democrats. So if you don't vote for Democrats, then obviously you were okay with this. You're part of the problem. You're probably licking your chops and jealous that you weren't the one that did it.
And I don't think there's a racial issue. I know there are racial issues with some people, But as a whole, we are all standing here together because we're concerned about the same thing.
You took it to another level on Friday. In addition to the comments from Congresswoman Ayanna Priestly, she reportedly said, "quote We don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice." About
Look
that,
at you, brown whore. See, because that's what Ayanna Priestly's doing. She's prostituting herself to the white overlords. You know, now I'm not saying that because she's just a woman. I ain't saying that because she's black. And I'm not calling her a whore. Okay. I'm saying by her allowing herself to be used to push these narratives in this division, whether you be female, male, black, white, or whatever, you're allowing yourself to be prostituted because you know that racism is not the greatest threat. You know that it ain't the biggest problem in the black community. Somebody is supporting you based on the fact that you're willing to push that narrative. Therefore, you're acting as if you were a prostitute. Whether you are a prostitute or not, you're acting as if you're a prostitute. And what he is saying is that by saying what she said, she's acting as if she was a Grand Poobah KKK member. But your behavior and your actions and words sound very Grand Poobah-ish.
you said, these are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern KKK. You know, I'm sure, the KKK was responsible for more than a century's worth of horrific lynchings, rapes, murders of black people. How in any way are the views you're talking about comparable to the views and atrocities committed by the KKK?
No. Committed by the Democrat Party who formed the KKK.
What I said is the Grand Wizards of the KKK would be proud of what they would hear her say, because there's nothing more racist than saying that your skin color predicts something about the content.
You see? Because that's what she want to talk about. Everything she's been talking about through this whole segment is dealing with race. Same thing with MSNBC. They're all going right back to racism. And you're talking about a man that is a minority. So now what they're doing is assassinating his character, because you can't have a person that is, a person of color, a minority, out there not buying into racism as the greatest threat to America. You can't go in on immediately just calling this dude a racist. You got to build the case. You can't just straight start off by calling him a sellout Uncle Tom just based on the fact that he's a conservative alone. You got to lay the groundwork so that you will have a predicate to call him, a fringe right-winger. He's an extremist. He's a conspiracy theorist, and he's a sellout. He's not qualified to represent black folks and other minorities. Okay. And the reason is because look at this. He said that, I haven't ran into a white nationalist, and he also didn't condemn this, the crazy racist man based on the fact that racism is the greatest driving force behind that guy's behavior. He didn't condemn it like that. And now here it is. He compared Ayanna Priestly's racist statements to the words that would come out of somebody like the Grand Wizard of the KKK. So now we done laid down enough propaganda to where we can now start calling this dude a sellout Uncle Tom and not qualified to handle the issues of race because he doesn't race bait enough.
You didn't just say they would be proud. You said these are the words of the modern Grand Wizards of the modern KKK.
It is the same spirit. You're right about that, Dana. I think it is the same spirit to say that I can look at you and based on just your skin color, that I know something about the content of your character, that I know something about the content of the viewpoints you're allowed to express. For Ayanna Priestly to tell me that because of my skin color, I can't express my views, wrong. It is divisive.
Now I wonder why she's not saying, you're right about that. That is right. She shouldn't have said that. You're right. All black people don't think the same. You're right when Joe Biden said, you know what, if you don't know you're voting for him right now, you ain't black. You're right that, we should not judge people in America based on race, because when we do that, all we're doing is encouraging more racism. We're keeping it front and center in the frontal lobes of a lot of people who started to shuffle that mess to the back. Can't have that. And so now here she is coming back. Forget what you just said. Here's some more race baiting.
Is driving hate
that is
in this
a debate.
Country. This is dividing
that
our
is
country
a debate.
to a breaking point.
That is
And
a
I think we
debate
need
that
to move
is
beyond
based on nonviolent discussion. That you just said you're using rhetoric, which she said she's using rhetoric. That's one thing. And another thing is to say that she...
You see her reading them notes? You see her being calculated, trying to figure out how to work around everything that he just said? That she just wanted to skirt right over. But that's one thing, but that's not the thing that I want to talk about. I want to talk about some more racism in the KKK, and you telling everybody that she's basically a KKK member.
Represents, and she is a modern version of a KKK, which, as you know, was dedicated to the subjugation and violence against black people.
However, the spirit that comes out of these Democrats pushing this mess, and the fact that their party started the KKK and is still operating like it, well, yeah. See, they're not using racism of, yeah, you black people, I hate you. But they're using the racism of low expectations. Now, all of a sudden, they're using the racism of, well, yeah, only reason we recognize white privilege is because we're better than you. See, we're better than you. So we have to make adjustments in society for you poor black people. You can't get your IDs. You can't get on the internets and find out where to go get the COVID shot. All of that stuff. You can't learn math. You can't speak proper English. You can't behave in class. You know what? In fact, you got a stealing spirit that's greater than you. So if you go ahead and you loot anything under $900 in our cities, you're good. You're good. And if your young black men and women decide to start tearing up and violence all in our cities like in Chicago, we'll make excuses for y'all by saying, hey, look here, man, these kids are hungry. These kids are breaking into museums and all of these stores and stealing condoms and stuff to eat.
How on earth is she a modern grand wizard of that kind of organization?
Let's be intellectually honest and get to the heart of what this debate ought to be about.
What?
There is a worldview that says that the remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. That if you're black or brown, you have to have a particular point of view.
Wow. And that came right out of Ayanna Priestly's butt and Abraham X. Kendi Shabash Martin K. Abdullah. Came right out of him. That's right. The answer to past discrimination is current discrimination and future too.
That's from Ibram Kendi. That's from Ayanna Priestly, the people I quoted in my speech yesterday.
But can you have an intellectually honest conversation when you accuse her of being a grand wizard of the KKK? Can you have that intellectually honest discussion with that kind of rhetoric?
Yes, I can, Dana, because the point I'm highlighting is that even the people who, in good spirit, we all agree that the KKK was an awful organization that is a toxic stain in our national history.
Democrats.
So given that we can start from that point of agreement, now that allows us to say, well, who actually sounds more like that organization today?
Oh.
The people who are calling for more racial discrimination on the basis of skin color. So yes, I think
punch.
that is an intellectual...
Stop him. That was a gut punch. Because there you have it. It sounds like the folks who claim that they're fighting against racism are the ones that's pushing more racism than any other group of people. If you don't believe me, just let 5 minutes go by of a Democrat grabbing a microphone, whether it be in an interview, a debate, a dang on lecture, anything. Watch how quickly racism comes up. For I don't care what the topic is, just give them one, anything. You know, Ice Cube. How about that? Yeah, you know what?